on YouTube. It is live. You can watch live. We do have the governorship candidate of the All Progressive Grand Alliance, Dr. Alex Otti, right in the studio, talking about his manifestos and also the plans he has for Abia State, Ted, as the governor of the state on the 2nd of March 2019. Samson Eze.
Yes, Dr. Alex, let's look at some infrastructural issues now. What do you make of the present administration's approach to the development of the commercial city of Aba? And in one breath again, I want you to appraise the proposed Enyimba Economic City project, the support from the federal government. It's been commended from several quarters, but I've read some of your own comments about it. I would want you to respond to that, Enyimba Economic City, and then the government's drive to commercialize Aba fully.
Well, thank you, Samson. The Enyimba Economic City, my criticism is based on the records of this government. And I had said that there are 1,000,001 MOUs that this government had signed, so many of them. All you hear is signing of MOU, flag off of a project, you never hear about commissioning. So, and I go by records. So, and I have my fears that this government, except that it's a largely private sector driven project, but if it is about government driving this project, I do not see that they will deliver it.
So
they haven't said that.
Okay, sorry. If you get the nod of Abians to represent them, to administer the state come March 2nd, what would you do with Enyimba Economic City?
Well, I'll look at it. I'll have a serious look at it. I will ensure that it's actually largely a private sector driven project because the economy works. Of course, you must create the enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. If you do not, then it's just all a pipe dream. Now, back to your questions on Aba and infrastructure. I think what had happened is that we have had a government that is very, very high on propaganda and very low on performance. If you go into the social media or if you watch TV, you will see a lot of adverts pretending that things are well in Aba. Truth be told, Aba people know what is happening in Aba. First rain this year, the whole place went back to what it had always been. People's houses had been knocked down in several parts of Aba with the intention of building roads. Years later, nothing has happened. We have roads that had been flagged off as far back as June 2015, shortly after the swearing of the governor. Those roads are still being done, and I'll put that in quote. One of them is the Abawore Road, and that is a road that leads you into Aba if you are coming from Port Harcourt or from Umuahia or other parts of the country. That road, which is just about 6.8 kilometers, this government has been on it since 2015, and it does not show seriousness. People's houses in some places were knocked down, and you couldn't just simply finish the road. The one they talk about, Ariaria Market Road, yes, I've seen that. At least you can drive all the way to Ariaria. But that is just one road. I have tried to understand, and I commissioned consultants to go around the states, and they've got a figure of the total number of roads that had been done by this administration. And you'll be surprised. there is just about 79.38 kilometers of roads.
Are you
that
sure?
This government
are you
has
sure
done.
of these facts?
Very sure. And I told you, once I give you numbers, you can take them to the bank. I spent the money to do it. I just wanted to. I like to talk with facts and figures. I don't speculate. It was 79.38 kilometers that have been done. And I said, okay, let's assume that you are doing what our people used to call Chinese roads. Today, people associate China with slightly less than high quality. But we also know that China has made a lot of improvements. And there is nothing that you don't get. Virtually everything in the world is manufactured in China today. So let's say poor quality roads at maybe 60 million naira per kilometer of road. That will give you 4.8 billion naira. And let's even say, okay, let's stretch it to 80 million naira per kilometer of road. That would be about 6.8 billion, 7 billion naira. That is what this government has committed to road infrastructure in Abia State in the last 4 years. Yes.
Okay.
In the last 4 years. I discountenance the flyover, the Osisioma flyover, because I have a problem with it.
What is the problem?
The problem I have is that one, that road does not belong to Abia State. It's a federal road. Okay? The second problem I have is that common sense should tell someone that you don't go and start building up when you have not built down. And I think that is why they are stuck today. The third problem is that I have it on good authority that the contractors that have now gone into building that road, the express road, have problems with that, with the flyover. So in terms of priority, that should not be one of the first things that this government should have gone into. And whatever money that it has put in there, I understand it's between 5 and 6 billion naira is stuck. That money could have been used where you have a thinking government, could have been used to do other things. If you put about 6 billion into reclaiming the roads, just redoing the roads in Aba. The story that you hear today about Oboya Road, Ungwa Road, Moma Road, most of those roads are impassable. And you need to travel and see. Go to Aba and see. So the Aba requires total massive infrastructure rehabilitation. It is not a patch work. It's something that somebody needs to sit down and plan properly. One good thing about Aba is that the Europeans that planned it very well. If you fly over Aba in a chopper, you will see that every street, particularly the old Aba, every street leads to another street on a straight line. So, and what we could have done would be to build on that, not to let the entire place decay. Today, if you face Aba and rehabilitate Aba the way I have it in my program, you don't even need to look at any other part of the state for your internally generated revenue. Aba can look after the whole of Abia State. Okay? In my program, part of my program to decongest Aba is to build a ring road. It's already been designed. So as you come into Omeka Junction, if you are coming from Owerri, or you are coming from Umuahia, or you are even coming from Aba itself. So if you get to Omeka Junction, you take the road that leads you to Omoba in Isialangwa South. That is the road directly facing the Owerri Road. Maybe about 2-3 kilometers, you get to a place called Umenge Junction, and you take a right. That leads you on that Obikabia Road and takes you into Obikabia Junction in Obingwa. And you cross through Ukebu Road, and it's going to be a dual carriageway. What does that do? That takes everybody who does not have any business in Aba that is going to Akwa Ibom or going to Calabar or any of those areas. They will take that road easily and sidetrack Aba and go their way. That reduces the traffic. So that Osisioma flyover, even though I have a problem with it the way it's conceptualized, but it may not be necessary because you would have diverted a chunk of the traffic. Now, still from Owerenta, another road that I intend to build will be the old road before the express road was built in the 70s. There's an old road. You will see it once you go past the naval base to the right. It takes you into Umojima. So if you're going to Port Harcourt, you do not have any business with Aba. You just take that road and come out on the express and head to Port Harcourt. You've decongested Aba. Of course, there's also, beyond the traffic decongestion, it's also housing. Creating a new Aba town. And it can be beyond the express road so that people can have a new lease of life. People can develop. There is no town that does not give rise to satellite towns. You keep developing and moving. That is one of the things that I have for Aba.
Okay.
I don't know if I have answered your question.
Samson, I wanted to highlight your manifesto. Is it a 7-point agenda or a 10-point agenda?
All right. It's good to have point agenda.
Okay.
But then my manifesto, which is here, I broke it down. I have what I call the anchors, and there are 5 of them.
Okay, 5.
5.
Can you name them?
Yes, I can. And then I also have the drivers, things that are necessary, and there are a lot of them.
Okay.
Now, for the anchors, excuse me, the first one is industrialization and micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises, what you can call SMEs. The second one will be trade and commerce. The third one will be agriculture and agro-processing. The fourth one will be sports, entertainment, and tourism. And the fifth one is energy. Those are the anchors that you need to focus on to develop the state. Now, beyond the anchors, I now have drivers, or what you can call enablers, and those would include education, security, healthcare delivery, economic management, sound economic management, and a whole lot. And I believe there are about 11 of them. So I have articulated them in a 32-page manifesto. There are physical copies that I can leave behind. But then for those who visit the internet, if you go to my website, www.alexotti.com, you click on the manifesto and the 32-page document, you will see them there. So it's something that you can take your time to read, and I'm happy to take questions maybe at another time.
But how do you intend to relate with the people if elected? For example, there is this common thing about politicians. They are very accessible before elections. And if you're elected as the governor of Abia State, how do you think people, the ordinary man on the street, will be able to get access to you to ask you questions about your governance?
Fantastic question that you've asked. Thank you very much for that question. The first comment you made is that something that is peculiar with politicians. Here you are looking at a non-politician. I'm not one. What I have come is to intervene in politics. I have a second address, and I have always done something else in the financial sector. My mission is to intervene Abia State, and I go back to something else. I'm not one of those governors that will finish and want to go to the Senate or go to House of Reps or become a commissioner. We have seen situations where people finish as House of Reps members, as senators, and they are asking to be appointed Transition Council chairman. No, I'm not one of them. So from that point of view, you will know that I will not behave like a typical politician. Part of what I intend to do is to hold regular town hall meetings with our people, because you cannot be looking after people and you do not know what they want. You do not talk to them. So I'll be very accessible. regular town hall meetings, different groups, different organizations, different communities, town unions, and by so doing, I'll be able to feel their pulse. I'll get feedback. I love feedbacks. I'll get feedbacks from the work we're doing. And it's axiomatic, because if you are not doing well with your people, then I want them to see you. If you are owing salaries, what are you going to tell workers when they see you? If you are not paying pensioners, what are you going to tell them? So when politicians keep themselves away from the people they are in charge of, I can understand, because they have not done well. Because I'm very positive and I know that I'll do well, I'll be available to talk with my people. I'll be available to take feedbacks. And I'll be available to share ideas with them. Nobody has a monopoly of knowledge. I don't know if I answered well.
All right. Just before we hit the phone lines, Dr. Alex, in one platform, you liken Abia as being a state, in a state of emergency. And in that, the question of where the doctor who has come to the rescue of the patient shouldn't matter. The question of charter of equity is very emotional in Abia State. And as much as we try to paint this, it comes up from time to time. How do you feel that this has been an issue even among your contenders, among your opponents everywhere in terms of campaigns?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy you asked this question. This matter is only an issue to the governor of the state. That is his only campaign mantra. He stands on equity. Some of us stand on performance. So if you did not perform, then you cannot lay claim to equity. And I had also said that he who must come to equity must come with clean hands. And when I talk about clean hands, it's about how you have performed. Now let me go back to history. Sometimes when people talk about the Abia Charter of Equity, they don't even understand it. I know that a lot of people may not have seen the document. I've read that document. And I can stand here and tell you that document is moribund. It's an antiquated document. It may have been useful at the time it was crafted in maybe 1989 or something. But today it is absolutely irrelevant. Why do I say so? The Abia Charter of Equity was drafted by Abia fathers at the creation of the state.
The founding fathers.
The founding fathers at the creation of the state. Now, what did Abia mean at that time? Abia meant Afipo, Bende, Isikwato, and Aba. Now, the view of the founding fathers at that time, and by the way, you know, when people claim to be founding fathers, it just happened that they may have been part of the agitation for the creation of the state. But at the end of the day, it is those in authority that will create the state. If they don't want to create the state, there's nothing you can do. So their view then was that governance of the state should be rotated between these four blocks that I mentioned: Afipo, Bende, Isikwato, and Aba. The Abia we have today does not include Afipo. That is number one. Number two, that document also negated itself by saying in one of the clauses towards the end that for this document to be effective and for it to be implemented, that it must be passed by the Abia State House of Assembly as a document, as a legal document. As we speak, nobody has brought that document to Abia State House of Assembly, not to talk of passing it as a law. Now, drilling deeper, if actually we are going by that document, then the person that refers to himself as the father of equity in Abia didn't have any business being a governor of the state or presenting himself as a governor of the state. Because He is from Old Bende. Okay, so after Afikpo, let's assume that Ogbonneonu took the turn of Afikpo, assuming that that argument needs to hold any water. Then Ojo Okalo took the turn of Old Bende. Then it should be Aba. So that document had already been implemented in breach. You know what happens is that when people lack things to say, they try to dig up things that do not make sense. Now, Abia State, where we are today, is a state in trouble. It's a state that has been mismanaged. It's a state that has gone through a lot of difficulties. And where we are is that we need somebody with competence, somebody that has the capacity, somebody that has the skills, somebody that is sound, that understands how the economy works to take over the affairs of the state. So that's why I refer to that document as moribund. It's of no use. And finally, I also like to say that the issue of where you come from matters to the extent that you want it to matter. People have been talking of my ancestry, and I'm very proud to say that my ancestry is Arochukwu. I'm proud. But I also want my opponents to be proud and admit that that their ancestors don't even come from this state. I have challenged them. We have traced their ancestry to Akwa Ibom State. Why are they not proud to admit it? So when you go into that argument, you find that everybody comes from somewhere. But the Constitution is very clear about who is an indigene. So, and I would ask them to go and read it.
All right, let's move on before we go straight to the phone lines. You've made several explanations as it concerns your role as the former MD CEO of Diamond Bank. Now, the merger between Diamond Bank and Access Bank has generated lots of controversies as you head into the polls on the 2nd of March, especially as it concerns the fact that you're the former managing director of that organization. What is your explanation? Because they're saying, according to them, I'm quoting, that it was due to your mismanagement that led to the merger of that particular bank, Diamond Bank and Access Bank.
Okay. The first thing that I'd like to say is that mergers and acquisitions are not necessarily bad. So two organizations that have synergy can sit down and discuss mergers and acquisition. Okay, so that is the first point for educational purposes. Now the second point is that those that are banding the argument, they're also banding the argument for political reasons. And my response to them has always been that the way banks and financial institutions work is different from the way governments work. Once you leave as CEO of a bank, you leave. You do not have access to anything in the bank, not to talk of the management of the bank. So it is the people who are running the bank today that are in a position to talk about how the bank is not being managed, how the bank is being managed. But I can tell you about how I manage Diamond Bank. And even before I tell you how I manage Diamond Bank, you can go and check the numbers, check the figures, check the facts. You must not believe me. You must not take it from me. The facts are there. The records are there. What I do not have is the anointing to begin to tell you what is happening in a place that I left 5 years ago. I do not have that anointing. But I can tell you that when I joined Diamond Bank in 2011, I was headhunted by KPMG because I was executive director of First Bank for 6 years. And I was a very performing executive director. The records are also there for you to go and check. At the time I was leaving First Bank, many of the senior people in the bank, by that I mean senior directors and owners of the bank, prevailed on me. They didn't want me to leave. So when you are blessed, irrespective of what people say. I joined Diamond Bank in 2011, precisely on the 1st of March, 2011. I made a balance sheet size of 565 billion. But I met a bank that was also challenged because of the global economic recession that happened between 2008 and 2009. And because of that global economic recession, the bank posted a loss of about 12.3 billion in 2009. They quickly recovered in 2010 by posting a profit before tax of about 9 billion naira. But the bank was still relatively small in size. I mean, when you talk about 565 billion naira balance sheet. So when we came in, we sat down and we crafted a new strategy for the bank. It took several months for us to get the approval up to the board level. We brought in the best hands and we started on a process of transformation. Because we wrote off a lot of the legacy bad loans, not all of them, but a lot of them, we made a loss of about 27 billion naira at the end of 2011. But quickly, we now put the bank on autopilot and we began to make good profit. So that by the end of 2012, we made a profit before tax of 28 billion naira. Our balance sheet size had grown to 1 trillion naira from 565 billion. In 2013, we moved our profitability from 28 billion to 33 billion. Balance sheet size from 1 trillion to 1.5 trillion. And in 2014, by the time I left, our profit before tax was about 26 billion and balance sheet size was 2 trillion naira. Now the bank became designated as one of the 8 systemically important banks in Nigeria. That is not a mean feat. It means when you say a bank is systemically important, that means that the bank has become too big to fail. That means that the bank would be rescued if there is anything that happens to it. So it is for the big boys. And so Diamond Bank was one of the 8 in a population of 25 banks. I became the chairman of Committee of Bank CEOs in Nigeria. And we opened a subsidiary of the bank in London, and we opened locations in Francophone West African countries of Togo, Senegal, and a couple of other countries. We went to the market, to the Eurobond market, and raised about $200 million for the bank. For the first time, the bank went to the Euro market and raised that money. So the bank was respected. Our staff strength doubled. Branches went up from, I think, about 210 to 265 in Nigeria. We spent money to automate the bank. So the bank became the toast of the banking industry. In fact, while I was there, the bank became the best paying bank in Nigeria. And in terms of rating, our rating improved from about 15 to 16 to about 6 in the bank. So it became easily one of the banks to look up to. But unfortunately, by the time I left, the people managing the bank changed the strategy. And unfortunately, they did replace it with another strategy. So things that are important in a bank, strategy must be right. Your controls must be right. So when you don't have the right strategy, and we had a robust strategy we titled it Reclaiming the Diamond, Project 5315. And we moved and executed flawlessly. But when the strategy was changed and controls were weakened, the bank started losing the flair that it used to have. And it was as if I was being clairvoyant, because the day I was being sent off, my chairman made a comment which I would like you to read. I won't quote him, but just Google it and read what the chairman, and is no less a person than the Obi of Onitsha, His Royal Majesty Igwe Albert Nemeka Achebe. He made glowing tributes, and people were sad that I was leaving. But I made a comment, and I said it was like a joke. But unfortunately, it turned out to be reality. And I said the day I was going that an outgoing CEO like me handed over 3 envelopes to his successor. And the envelopes were marked 1, 2, 3. And he said, just in case, I don't pray that you have problems, but just in case you have problems, open these envelopes in the order that they are numbered. So and when he started having problems and opened the first envelope, what was written in it was, blame your predecessor. When he opened the second envelope, what was written on it was, calling the consultants. And then the third envelope, what he saw on it was, begin to prepare your own 3 envelopes. So, and I guess that my successors spent too much time on the first envelope, that they did not look at the second envelope, and they completely ignored the third envelope. But I can tell you that my records are excellent records, and no amount of propaganda, tarnishing of image, or whatever they say in Abia State would affect the records that I left in Diamond Bank. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the answer you gave on that particular question. We'll head straight to the phone lines. But before we go to the phone lines, let's take another break. It's a still more cast on Vision Africa 104.1 FM, Pace 3.5 FM, Buzz FM in Aba 89.7, and also Flow 94.9 FM. It is also live on YouTube page, Flow 94.9 FM YouTube page. Don't forget, we're having this conversation with the governorship candidate of the All Progressive Grand Alliance, Dr. Alex Otti, and he has been talking about his manifesto and what he has in plan for Abia State for the next 4 years. We'll go for a break, and when we return, we open the phone lines. Hey,